What's good, y'all? It's your boy Mixtape Moth. So, Brooklyn rapper and actor Joey Badass has finally dropped his first full-length album in 5 years. His 2012 debut mixtape, 1999, is regarded by many as a classic. And even if you aren't a big Joey Badass fan, it is hard to argue that the album didn't play a role in helping to shift the climate for the younger generation of artists in the 2010s. Joey and his pro-era crew are really some of the first artists that come to mind when I think of the New York rappers who revitalized that 90s jazzy boom bap sound. They came at a time when a lot of New York rappers went out of their way to adopt the sounds of other regions, but Joey and the whole Beast Coast collective had a refreshing movement going on at the time, and I think influenced some artists in their generation. His 2015 studio album, Before the Money, was a very solid follow-up that I enjoyed. However, I didn't necessarily care for his 2017 All-American Badass project as much. I could appreciate his desire to want to experiment with newer sounds and to go in a slightly more commercial direction, but I didn't think the album had a lot of replay value, at least for me. Now, he had dropped the Light Pack EP in 2020, which only consisted of 3 songs, so it was hard to determine what direction Joey would be going into next. That brings us to this new project, 2000, his first in 5 years. We have production from the likes of Chuck Strangers, Kirk Knight, Eric the Architect, Mike Will Made It, Sean C and LV, Static Selector, who produced roughly half of it. Also Cardiac, B Bearded, and Rocky. It contains 14 songs lasting approximately 53 minutes. But with that being said, let me go ahead and just hit y'all with this track by track breakdown. This thing opens up with The Baddest, produced by Eric the Architect. We get Puffy on the pianos, allegedly. It's the same suave melody that was used for Grand Puba's classic 1995 single, I Like It. And you say New York City? Joey's talking his talk here, stating, I can take 5 years off because my shit is timeless. My core got my back, so I'm standing on my promise. These dudes backed by these labels, they all spineless. And I paved the way for a lot of these rappers you see today, so act like you know, bitch. I been had the flow, penetrating souls. Who's the best MC? Kenny, Joey, and Cole. So let me know in the comment section if you think Joey Badass sits at the table with the big 3 from that 2010 era. Track 2, Make Me Feel, has a nice bop to it. I like the Static Selector produced beat with the fly Stephanie Mills sample. It has that smooth late 80s R&B flavor, you know, something bright for the season. Joey dropped some focused motivational bars like, gotta have tunnel vision if you want to make it out, no fear of missing out, 10,000 hours in, now it's time to make it count. Next is Where I Belong, which has a moodier and more Twilight boom bap beat from Static. Joey talks about leveling up by following his passion, which is hip hop. He loves the microphone so much that he can never leave it alone. So this is a dope mid-tempo, head-nodding hip-hop record that I have no complaints with. The following brand new 9/11 with Westside Gunn is a highlight. The jazzy horn production from Chuck Strangers gives it that New York summertime anthem feel. Joey raps, because when you connect it to the source, you won't need nothing else. Still, I went and copped me the Porsche just for my mental health. I guess I couldn't help myself. So he's letting us know that just because he's a conscious boom bap guy doesn't mean that he can't make these fly, expensive luxury purchases. He doesn't have to stay in a basement with fatigues and Timbs on all damn day. It's okay to have that balance, fellas. Right after is Cruise Control, which has a very mellow and tranquil beat from Mike Will Made It. So I dug this wavy instrumental, and I like Joey's flow and the lyrical content. I wasn't a huge fan of his sugary R&B vocals on the hook. I suppose it's not a bad record, but I just thought the chorus was a little too clean for my liking. Next is Eulogy, produced by Static, who gives us an entrancing boom bap beat. The dusty drums and jazzy melody feel like something straight out of 96. Here, Joey is reflecting on the state of the game, addressing topics like the hatred he receives, racism, drugs, clout, and kids getting killed for no reason. He's dropping a mixture of socially conscious, boastful, and lyrical miracle bars. So he's basically doing what he does best over this chill head nod beat from Static. Track 7, Zip Codes, shifts things right back into luxurious territory with its plush and chic sax beat from Kirk Knight. It's something smooth to ride to on a sunny day. Joey has some luxury lines like prices like a zip code, I switch zones when it gets cold, and he also has some boastful ones like 100,000 hours and you dudes only masturbation. Y'all some pros at procrastination. So yeah, as a whole, this one is cool with its laid back and classy vibe. Afterwards is the standout One of Us featuring Larry June. It's a Brooklyn to Bay Area collabo. Static provides us with a flawless bass heavy beat with this early 90s R&B sample. It's an impeccable instrumental for show. Larry June drops his fly game as expected and he states, "I'm the type to let a bad bitch walk away because that ain't my main focus. I'm on to bigger things." And that's some true game that the true Macs are going to relate to. Track 9, Welcome Back, is the only real and obvious miss on this project. I actually don't dislike this wavy beat, but the Chris Brown hook was not good. Unfortunately, I have not heard a solid Chris Brown hook in a while. They have seemed rather soulless as of late. It just came across as a forced radio attempt. Now, in theory, I don't have a problem with commercial records, as long as they sound good. That's the key. They gotta sound good. But this wasn't anything memorable or special. Any of the commercial songs, in my opinion, from either of the King's Disease album shits on this. Immediately after is Show Me, which has some syrupy sample-based production from Static. It's another flawless instrumental from the Boston to Brooklyn producer. But this is a relationship record where Joey speaks on all the troubles of falling in love, but the beat from Static definitely stood out the most to me. It was after this record where I felt Joey could have benefited from an up-tempo or an aggressive track, considering that the remainder of this album has a mellow, somber, and pensive quality. Track 11, Wanna Be Loved, is a successful collaboration between Joey and JID. It is set to a hypnotic and nocturnal instrumental from Chuck Strangers, who completely kills it with this multi-layered beat. We get some thoughtful and introspective bars from the two. It's a thinking man's record with excellent production. Track 12, Head High, finds Joey Badass getting even more reflective. It's backed by a jazzy mid-tempo beat from Static with these dream-like synths. It gives it that warm summer evening in BK feel. Joey talks about the conditions in the streets, the death of X, and how that affected him, but through it all, he just remained focused on keeping his head high. This particular track really demonstrates Joey's knack for these contemplative records that make you really feel where he is coming from. Things get even more emotional on the track Survivor's Guilt, which is a tribute record to Capital Steez and his cousin June. It has the most heartfelt and poignant lyricism from the album, without a doubt. Here, Joey opens up about the whole situation involving Steez's death and how that impacted him throughout these years. He hasn't really spoke on it much publicly until now. He admits that his silence at the time led to some conspiracy theories that he strongly denounces, but still he feels like he could have done more to help Capital Steez, given that he did suffer from mental health issues. Joey's following lines might be some of his most gut-wrenching to date. And that right there is my internal war. The reason why I gotta feel these external flaws. The reason I can't heal this eternal loss. The reason why I gotta feel this survivor's remorse. It's powerful stuff. Then the album wraps up with Written in the Stars, a closing track with Puffy that added some continuity to this project, as he was also featured on the opener. But we have some elegant and epic live instrumentation from Sean C and LV. It's a beautiful backdrop for Joey to drop some bars about being a legend in hip hop and all that he had to do to overcome. Overall, I would give this project a rating of 4 mics. I feel this is a strong return album for Joey Badass. He seemed to get a lot off his chest while also doing his standard bragging and boasting. I feel he provided the right amount of braggadocio and introspection that we would want from an artist of his caliber. He did the luxury raps, but balanced it with just as much to, if not more, personal reflection. Now, in terms of the production, it represents a style of very polished and suave boom bap. It's glossier than some of the lo-fi instrumentals found on 1999, but still in step with the traditional New York sound for the most part. It's just very laid back and smooth as a whole. I would say that Static Selecta and Chuck Strangers were the MVPs on the production end. Those two were really in their bag as far as showing their chemistry with Joey. My only issue with this album, aside from not liking the Chris Brown track, was that it needed one crunchy or aggressive track between the middle to latter part of the album to break up the sequence of the soothing and somber instrumentals on the back end, all of which I liked and I thought they were well produced, but I feel it needed at least one punchy or in-your-face record. Possibly a good primo beat in a vein similar to the track Unorthodox or Paper Trails, or maybe even something boot camp inspired with the patois, or even like a high energy soul sample Dipset era beat. Still, if I had to compare this album to any recent projects that have dropped from artists who also waited 5 years to release their album, i.e. Kendrick, I would say that sonically I enjoyed listening to this Joey Badass album more. My favorite tracks include Make Me Feel, Brand New 9/11, Eulogy, One of Us, Wanna Be Loved, Head High, and Survivor's Guilt. Let me know what you thought about this album in the comment section. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but make sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Joey Badass 2001.